Okay, go ahead, Diana.
Okay. This week's presentation is on visual impairments. Next slide. It's not showing up for me again.
It's not showing up?
Mm.
Oh my gosh, okay. But I don't know why it's not working, because on my screen...
Oh, there it is. Okay. So for a brief history of visual impairments, they have always existed. There are a lot of accounts in history and even biblical accounts of persons who suffered from visual impairments and even complete blindness, including Jacob in the Old Testament, who had trouble seeing, and the accounts of Jesus Christ healing those who were blind in the New Testament. Now, corrective lenses, they didn't really begin appearing until around the 14th century, but they became more prevalent as concave lenses are used in the 1600s. And around the 1780s, it began in France, where schools were designed specifically to accommodate the blind. And in 1834, Louis Braille invented Braille, and it was beginning to be implemented in schools for beginning with the Missouri School for the Blind in 1860. Now, Helen Keller, she's a very iconic figure in history. She was the very first blind person to receive a college degree. And in 1929, the first Seeing Eye Dog School was built in the United States. But just over time, the accommodations for the blind and the visually impaired have only gotten better. And the quality of the accommodations makes it more possible for them to be independent. Next slide.
For the etiology, the leading causes of blindness and visual impairments are related to age-related macular degeneration, and the macula is located at the back of the eye and the retina. This also controls central vision, and with this disease, they have a deterioration of the central vision, and this can occur gradually or quickly. Next is glaucoma, and it affects the optic nerve of the eye, which results in a loss of peripheral vision. Cataract is the next one, and it's having double or blurred vision, and it can affect central and peripheral vision, and this becomes blurry. Diabetic retinopathy results from diabetes. It affects the retina, and it's when the blood vessels in the eye are blocked. And other vision loss and impairments could also be inherited through parents or by an eye or brain injury. Next slide.
Okay, so for the prevalence, it is estimated that more than 14 million individuals in the United States aged 12 years and older are visually impaired. Of these cases, 11 million are attributable to refractive error, and the most common causes of non-refractive visual impairment are age-related, degeneration, cataracts, diabetic effects, glaucoma, and other retinal disorders. There are two types of eye disorders, refractive and non-refractive. Refractive can be, some examples can be nearsightedness, farsightedness, lazy eye, cross-eyed, and they're seen in almost 20% of children. Non-refractive errors include glaucoma, cataracts, or even cancer in the retina. In the U.S., there are approximately 455,462 children with vision difficulties, and it refers to children who have serious difficulty seeing even when wearing glasses and those who are blind. 42,000 children with a severe vision impairment are unable to see words and letters in ordinary newsprint, and 61,739 children in the educational setting who are legally blind. Next slide.
So for each state, they have different laws that allow children to be eligible for being considered visually impaired to receive like special education services. For example, for the state of Wisconsin, visual impairment means even after correction, a child's functioning is still significantly affected during his education. There are many events that happen in order for a child to receive the eligibility, such as they need to have a professional evaluation of their medical history, and they do performance tests of how well they can function in school and in other locations. And an eye doctor is usually involved, and they do tests to see what type of impairment they have. Some examples might be that they have like 20/70 vision in the better eye, or like reduced vision in the better eye, or a degenerative condition. And then finally, an IEP team, they work together to discuss like the mobility needs and adjustments for the child. Next slide.
So some of the learning characteristics that individuals with learning that they have are that they have limited ability to learn incidentally from their environment. They must be taught compensatory skills and adaptive techniques in order to acquire different methods for knowledge. So this can impact the normal sequence of learning in social, motor, language, and cognitive development areas. So this leads to low motivation to explore the environment, initiate social interaction, and manipulate objects. Vision loss may negatively impact the development of appropriate social skills, and as a result, these children may experience low self-esteem that limits their mastery over their own lives. They can still learn at the same rate of other children, but they still require direct interventions to develop complete understanding of the relationships between people and objects. Some of the learning tools that you can use are to adjust the lighting for alternative source and illumination. You can use large print and communications and documents. You can use braille labels or tactile dots on equipment, tools, and documents. You can provide magnification devices or use electronic text and voicemails. And you can assign human readers to help with printed and handwritten materials that cannot be converted electronically.
Hi there. My name is Cheryl Cheney, and I've decided to share some personal experiences from being visually impaired my whole life. To give you a little bit of an idea, perfect vision is considered to be 20/20 without corrective lenses. I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old of having low vision, and since then have worn glasses. My family or my parents were able to learn this about me after going through this with my older brother, and they learned that he was visually impaired at a young age, and so they were watching it with me. Without my corrective lenses of my glasses, my vision is 2400 in my right eye and 2300 in my left eye, which is considered legally blind. With my corrective lenses, my vision has been corrected to 20/80 in both eyes, which is still considered to be legally blind. Through this, I've been able to learn through over the years of different accommodations made for those who are visually impaired. In elementary school, I was placed on an IEP to receive help and accommodations throughout school to make education a little bit easier for me, although it wasn't something that I liked to admit and didn't want to accept. I didn't want to accept the help of others, and I didn't want others to know that I had a disability. In elementary school, when I was using magnifying glasses or large print text or anything like that, I was often made fun of by other students and was receiving attention that I didn't want. And so I began to kind of become shy about it and didn't want to talk about it, which presented its other problems throughout my education of not being able to see the board, not being able to see what I was supposed to be reading, which affected me later on in my learning. It wasn't until high school that I really began to accept my disability and what it meant for me. I, again, in high school was still on an IEP and worked with a vision teacher specialist in my area who really just showed the love for me and presented all of these different options and how I could be helped and different things like that. I was able to work with another student in my school that was legally blind, which also kind of helped me to accept my disability. And in my sophomore English class, I really had to begin to speak up and advocate for myself with my teacher who she made fun of me in class for my vision disability. And it was a very difficult situation, but I had to begin to speak up and advocate and let her know that this wasn't okay. I had great friends in high school that accepted me for who I was and began to just help me in any way that I didn't even know that I needed. We'd go out and hang out and they'd start reading the menus for me or different things like that without even being asked. Also, it was really hard in high school to accept the fact that I wasn't ever going to be able to drive. When this also presents its own challenges with that and watching all of my friends get their licenses and things like that. But it also presented an opportunity for my friends to whenever we'd go out and do something, they'd all offer to volunteer to pick me up. It was never something that I had to ask for. And so through that experience, I've been able to learn that it's okay and that it's not just a disability or something like that, that it's who I am, but it's also made me stronger and work harder. And so I've gone on to college and about to graduate. But also a lot of people don't know that I'm visually impaired until I tell them. With my visual impairment, it is hereditary in my family. There are three of four of us in my family that have low vision and also have albinism, lack of pigmentation, along with nystagmus, which my eyes continuously move, making it hard to focus and stay focused on one thing for a long period of time. So those are some of my personal experiences having a vision disability. And we thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation. Thank you.